Thank you.
Hello there, Raylan. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Very
Is there
good.
any way to are you on a desktop or a laptop? Can you like fold it down so that you're more in the camera there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. Great. So as George mentioned, I'm Amy Ray, and I work for a company called Zeldis Research. We're an independent market research firm in New Jersey, and we are talking to some folks like yourself. We're going to be talking about your needs and views on retirement planning, and then later in the conversation, I'm going to be showing you some ideas and getting your feedback on them. Just to give you a little bit of background, kind of how this works, I have a list of questions and topics to cover, but it's really meant to be an informal conversation. There's no wrong answers. We're just looking for your opinions and your candid perspective. You can see on the screen we only use your first name. We never share your last name. So don't mention it if you want to stay confidential, because we are being audio and video recorded, and there are folks who are observing in what I call a virtual back room. So, that's part of why we keep it confidential. It would be helpful if you happen to have a pen or paper, or you can grab one real quick. Do you have one there with you? Terrific. Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we jump in? I can't hear you. Are you on the line there?
I had it on mute, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. It wouldn't work very well if I couldn't hear you. So this will be better. Raylan, I don't know if you saw, we sent you a note asking you to submit the answers to some questions or write a letter, I think it was. Did you see that? Did you happen to send that in?
I sent that in, yeah.
When did you send that in? Do you know?
Someone called me this morning about it. I sent it to the email address that was attached to it.
Okay. Okay, great. I didn't get it yet, but that's okay. I'm glad that you sent it in. As long as I have it at some point, that's great. I want to start off. We're going to do a little exercise. Well, actually, before I do that, I have a couple of just get to know you questions.
Sure.
I'm going to bring those up. I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself, your family, if you have one, anything about that, your occupation, what you do for a living, and then a little bit about what your hopes are for when you plan to retire.
Okay. Family status, I am a single female, unmarried, well, I guess divorced, but been divorced for years. Occupation, I am a licensed registered nurse, but I work on the corporate side of healthcare. My title is Director of Population Health. So I've been at the director level for quite some time, and for example, I worked for Blue Cross and Blue Shield at the executive level for 5 years, and now I'm with a different health plan. But I have to have a nursing license to do the job because there's a clinical piece to it. But I'm on the operations side. I attend a lot of executive meetings, conference calls, things like that, just operations.
Okay.
When do you plan to retire? Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe in 10 years, if I'm financially able.
Okay. What age? What would that put you age-wise?
I would be 60. Well, I'm 49 now. I'll be 50 in April. So, yeah, I guess 60.
60-ish. Okay.
And yeah, and to be honest, I don't know a lot about retirement. I know that I should probably have participated in the 401k before now, but yeah, life happens, I guess.
Okay. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that and what your plan looks like in a minute. But before we do that, I want to do a little activity. I'm going to bring up on the screen a bunch of pictures, a bunch of images of all different things. And I'm going to ask you to think a little bit about your feelings about retirement, good or bad. And I'm going to ask you to pick the 3 pictures that most reflect how you feel about retirement. And all the pictures will have numbers, so you can just write down the number. And again, the images can mean anything to any person. That's up to your interpretation, and it could be good or bad. It depends on how you feel. So I just need to find that here. Hold on one second. Here we go. So I'll let you take a few minutes and look over all the images, and this is where it's helpful if you just jot down the 3 numbers that are associated with the image that you select.
So 3 images that I most associated retirement with?
With your feelings about retirement. So when you think about retirement and how you feel, whether that's positive or worries, whatever it is, just pick 3 images that kind of go with those feelings for you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, what do you got for me?
7, 14, and 24.
Okay, let's start with 7. Why did you choose 7?
Because I haven't quite solidified a plan at this point in my life. I feel like there's going to be a lot of restraint that I'll have to put in place regarding my finances.
Okay, good. Why did you choose 14?
It's a vault or maybe a safe, and ideally you would want to have, pretty full vault of money to retire. And that's the ideal world. Not my world, but in an ideal world.
Okay. Okay. And what was the last one that you chose, or the other one you chose?
24.
24. Okay. Why did you pick the hourglass there?
I feel like I'm running out of time.
You feel like you're running out of time, and why do you feel that way?
So I'm going to be 50 in April, and I feel like I should have already had a financial planner maybe 10 years ago, or when I kind of first got into the corporate side of, of my career. I just wish I'd been intelligent enough to know or smart enough to make a decision to connect with like a financial planner or someone that said, okay, you're making 6 figures now. This is what we need to start doing.
Okay. So at this point, you haven't worked with a financial planner at all.
I have not.
Plan to? Do you think you will?
Oh, I would like to, yeah. I just don't even know where to go, because a 401k, I mean, even from like a $1 billion company like, Blue Cross or, United Healthcare, of course it's part of your benefit plan, but, there's no real guidance. You just opt in at a certain percentage with no no guidance of what you should be choosing based on your age and where you want to be. So I need more of, a directed, this is what you should be doing. If you do this, this is where you're going to end up. If you don't do this, this is where you're going to end up. Then that's really not available, I think, through a traditional 401k.
How do you think you'd go about finding somebody if you wanted to?
I have no idea, which is probably why I haven't.
So, I know you, I mean, you haven't done it, so you're not sure, but, I mean, do you hope to do that soon?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Maybe,
Do you think that's
at the beginning of 2019.
2019, okay. Do you think part of why you haven't is just, like you said, because you're not sure where to find one or how to go about doing it?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason, because I don't have any idea where to begin to look for a financial advisor that's credible and, that you could trust. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about, not as fun, but I want to talk about some of your worries and anxieties when it comes to retirement. So, I want you to share kind of what keeps you up at night when you think about retirement, or, what generates the most anxiety for you.
Not having enough money to live on to do what I want to do, to continue the lifestyle that I have, being restrained with income. I hear a lot of the older generation talking about, fixed income and things you just can't afford to do anymore, even simple things. Not able to travel and enjoy your retirement because I haven't made the appropriate plans.
Okay. Anything else?
Probably one of the reasons, I think, not that you're asking me this, but as I think through it, probably one of the reasons that I haven't probably taking a deep dive into it is because I don't have a family. I think if I had children to worry about, I'd be out. Obviously I would have been more motivated, but I just think it's just me. So I guess not having a family that was probably one of the downsides. That just hit me out of the blue. So.
Oh, that's a really good point, though. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. We're going to talk about kind of three pieces of retirement, or three aspects. And the first one I want to talk about is what we would call kind of the accumulation phase, where you're saving and you're investing and you're sort of building what you're going to need in retirement, or planning for what you're going to need in retirement. So, so I want to ask you, so tell me, what, if anything, have you done? Do you have a 401k or an IRA or any kind of a retirement account?
Not anymore. I used to have, when I was at Blue Cross, I did invest, but just because they, I can't think of the terminology, it just escapes me now, but at a certain percent they maybe match.
Yep.
But when I left Blue Cross, I think they asked me if I wanted to roll it over or send me a check or something, and they just sent me a check.
Okay.
So I didn't invest in my current company, because to be honest, I didn't think I would be there long. An old VP asked me to come and kind of pull things together for her. And I thought, I'm not going to be here this long, so I'm not going to even bother. But here we are 4 years later, so that was a mistake.
Okay.
So just lessons learned. I should have just wrote it over, and then that probably would have been a good time to invest. To look into a financial advisor to say, okay, at this age, what do I do? Where should I be? But I didn't. So,
did you have, if they sent you a check, and it was from a 401k, were there penalties and taxes you had to take out of that?
I think so, but I just didn't know enough about it to say, roll it over to something, because it doesn't make sense to pay those taxes and penalties. So, yeah, I remember there were some penalties, but I wasn't, educated enough about it to say, well, just roll it over into Magellan Health's plan. I've been doing a little bit of reading now. I know that, I should have rolled it over, and that probably would have kind of forced me also to dive into it a little more with my new organization.
Mm-hmm. So do you have anything saved for retirement? Do you have like a savings account or?
No, I don't have anything. I bought an investment property I bought an investment property in 2013.
Okay.
2013 or 2014, because, every year we receive bonuses, when you're usually, most companies, but, so at the executive level, and so I was, my bonuses usually end up being around like $30,000 a year, and a realtor just said, hey, you may want to consider, investing in, rental properties or something. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that, but really it was just her kind of forcing me. So I did purchase a property outright cash, and so that's just residual income that I receive on a monthly basis. And not having a plan in place as far as a 401k, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's the route I need to go at this stage of the game, because I'm going to, I don't know, I feel like I'm too old to kind of start a 401k, and where would that leave me? I'd have to invest pretty aggressively, but I don't know. This is just me in my uneducated mind about retirement. So I really just recently started thinking, well, maybe I should just purchase another investment property, and that money, I don't even know what a retirement check would look like. Like, I don't know what somebody who's worked 20 years for various companies, on a monthly basis, what they bring home, or what do they receive as far as retirement. Like, that piece of it I don't know. So I thought, well, maybe the real estate might be my retirement, my retirement plan.
Do you have any, in any of the places that you've worked in the past, are you going to get a pension from any place that you've worked?
I doubt it, no. I mean, I don't think I've worked long enough. I mean, I was with Blue Cross for almost 5 years, but not quite. So I think at 5 years is when you're considered to be like vested or something. So I won't, I've never worked for the government or anything like that, or, a Ford or a Chrysler, like, my parents. So I don't expect pensions from anywhere.
Okay. All right. I want to bring up another exercise. We've been talking about kind of the, saving or planning for retirement, investing for retirement. You talked about your real estate as a investment for retirement. When you think about saving and investing for retirement, I want you to, it's like taking a test in school. I want you to fill in the blank for me with those 3 sentences. I want you to think about that piece of it and then kind of fill in those 3 blanks. And again, you can take a minute and just let me know when you have that.
I feel anxious about my future regarding retirement. I wish I had connected with a financial advisor a decade ago in preparation. And I need, I would say I need assistance and guidance to determine if I can catch up and prepare, adequately, or if it's too late.
When you say that, or is it too late, what do you mean by that? I mean, do you think you would just keep working in that scenario? What is the alternative?
Meaning, if I sit down with someone, would they say, okay, you're going to be 50 in April, you're making, $140,000 a year, you should be investing, you should be contributing at, the maximum amount of money into a 401k. I have no idea what that is, and or would they say, or would they say yes, okay, at a maximum contribution you should be fine in 10 years, or at a maximum contribution you're still going to struggle.
Okay.
So that's, what I mean.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about we talked about sort of the saving and investing part. Oh, let me ask you too. You have the real estate that you bought for an investment. Do you also own your home that you live in?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's an asset as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about the other side, about what you're going to do when you retire in terms of what you're going to live on, how you're going to kind of use whatever you have at that point to maintain your lifestyle and to live the way you want to live. And that includes the income you have from the real estate. It could include Social Security. It could include whatever you save between now and when you retire, but just kind of making the decision on how to have an income and how to live once you're retired. So in finance terms, it's called deaccumulation, right? You've kind of gotten up to that point, and now you've got to live for the rest of your life after you've left work. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring up the same kind of fill in the blank. Now I want you to think about, when you think about how you will manage what you have in retirement, draw down on what you've saved or what income that you have coming in from investments, what you're going to spend. When you think about that side of it, how you're going to financially kind of have an income and live in retirement, I want you to kind of think about that and fill in the same three blanks for me.
Thinking about how I will manage and draw down on spend my retirement savings. Yeah, I think along the same lines. When I think about it, I feel like I'm going to be restrained. I'm going to have to create a budget and adhere to a budget, which I have not traditionally been good at. So I'm just owning my truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think about it. Again, I wish that I had. I wish I could think about retirement and think I'm well prepared. That would be my wish, but that's just not true. Manage. I guess if there's such a person, I think I probably would still need, someone that's a subject matter expert on how to manage once you have retired on what you have.
Yep.
Okay. What you should and should not spend money on, logically from a financial standpoint.
Okay. Okay. How will you figure it out? How will you figure out what you need, what your budget is, will you just kind of sit down and look at what you spend now? How will you go about kind of figuring out what you need month to month once you're retired?
Definitely would have to, create a, I think I would have to sit down and look at what I'm spending, be able to discern need from wants, necessity from nice to have, and what I could afford. I don't want to be concerned about spending money, as I retire, meaning I don't want to have to pull out an Excel spreadsheet every time I want to spend some money to determine, okay, are you going to have enough for the necessities?
Okay. The last area I want to talk about is related to health. And
I'm sorry, you related to what?
sorry, related to health, related to
Okay.
To healthcare and retirement, and that could be anything from health insurance to unexpected health issues to eventually, potentially the need for long-term care or needing care as you get older. And so I want to talk to you about that. Do you think about that? What are your concerns?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think about it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think about it quite a bit. I think about my family history. That plays a role in it. All of my parents are deceased and all of my siblings. So I'm very acutely aware of the possibilities of where my health could go. And I strive to avoid, any of the comorbidities that I can have a direct effect on. Working out, eating healthy or things like that. Just I have to be very aware of that. I also, in a proactive, I also have AFLAC because, anything goes wrong, and it has gone wrong. See, I'm 49, so this would have been 20 years ago. I was diagnosed with cancer, but, luckily I was, able to kind of move past that, no residual issues or effects, but it kind of just, woke me up. And I thought, if it hadn't been for AFLAC at the time, I would have been pretty devastated, wiped out financially. So no matter what, I always ensure that, that premium is being paid because, it happened then. Now I'm 20 years older, so anything could happen based on just life itself or family history. So that, there's no financial burden there.
What about, you mentioned potentially wanting to retire around 60. What would you do for medical insurance given that you don't qualify for Medicare until you're 65? Would you find something?
No, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess I would work till I'm 65 then.
Okay, so you would pay till you. I mean, you could purchase health insurance. On your
but
own.
It's very expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And not sure that it's when you're paying for it personally. I don't know that the quality is there. I mean, I don't know if the quality is there when you're working and paying for it, but
and you work
definitely so. And I work, so I'm being very aware. Things things are not what they used to be in healthcare. I've seen tons of kind of modifications to the benefit plans.
Yep. So you think that
I would work till 65.
Keep you working till 65. Okay. And then what about, I mentioned briefly the long-term care. Do you have any thought or plan for if you eventually needed long-term care? Would you just kind of pay down your assets and then,
I know that there are a lot of companies that offer like long-term care assistance or like as a benefit, so I would probably look into that, and I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to do one last time. We're going to fill in the blank, this time thinking about the health issues we talked about. So when you think about unexpected health issues and expenses in retirement specifically.
I'm thinking about unexpected health issues and expenses. I feel pretty confident that I'm okay for now, based on the fact that I that I have AFLAC, and then I'm also just proactively making sure that I'm healthy with annual checkups and being aware of my family history. So I feel pretty good right now that I would be able that I would be aware of, unexpected health issues and expenses. Um,